Good afternoon and welcome to Politics in the Pulpit here on your hometown station, KHTS AM 1220 and 98.1 FM. This is your holy host, the Bishop of Santa Clarita, back for another opportunity to talk about the two things we're not supposed to talk about in public, but we'll do it anyway, religion and politics. And yes, as you just heard, they do indeed mix. We got a lot of news happening in the world today, not just the world, but here in our own nation. Obviously, the breaking news today is the trans shooter. Yes, you heard me right. The trans shooter in Minnesota, the land of the governor, Tim Walz, who just a couple of days ago at the Democratic headquarters said something to the extent of, if you are trans, come to Minnesota. We are the state that are going to care for you. Evidently, this trans individual didn't care. Obviously, two kids were shot up in a Catholic school, and those two kids are dead, and I think there was multiple injuries, close to 18 injuries with this individual. I just found an article that a friend of mine just sent me that I find very disturbing. I just was listening to the news a little bit ago, and for some reason they can't find motive. Well, the first thing is this individual's name is Robin Westman and reportedly identified as transgendered, so a man transing to a woman. His manifesto included pride flags and a gun with "Kill Trump" etched onto it. Obviously not a fan of the president. And then on some ammo cases, he had "For the Children" and "Where is your God?" on there. So 20 victims attacked and Catholic school in Minneapolis while kids were actually observing Mass, and two of those kids were killed while they were prostrate praying. What a sad thing. And so as the news media goes through this story, you're going to notice that if they do reluctantly mention that this individual was indeed a trans individual, they are going to do their absolute darndest to spin this in. They're probably going to spin this into saying that this individual was probably facing opposition from his family, or perhaps was being made fun of in the culture, and so therefore the only thing that he could do was to go shoot a bunch of kids up and then shoot himself, because ultimately he outed himself, committed suicide. And so I think they're going to probably try to spin this and say that unless we do more when it comes to the whole trans issue, that more and more of these individuals will take their own lives. And again, obviously people take their own lives all the time, and that's unfortunate, and I'm not for that. But it's best to take your own life without taking about 2, 3, 4 dozen with you. And so our hearts, of course, are with the families of those two individuals who were killed, and of course the many who are currently in the hospital right now with injuries. The other thing that has made the news the last couple of days here, if you haven't been on social media, then of course it may not be on your radar, but Cracker Barrel, the CEO, caves to public and presidential pressure. Now, let me give you a few things here. I'm one of those guys that tends to go to places that are owned by mom and pop kind of people. I'm not into chains very often. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, of course. I mean, who hasn't gone to an In-N-Out burger, things of that nature. But even those can be, I think, privately owned. But the fact is, Cracker Barrel is just one of those American institutions of the last 55 years or so that are just part of Americana. And to be honest, we haven't had a Cracker Barrel here in California for many years, until about 4 or 5 years ago, when then Governor Jerry Brown, towards the very end of his tenure as governor, struck a deal to bring Cracker Barrel back to California. Now, years ago, we had a Cracker Barrel a long time ago, back in the 70s and 80s, in the town of Cerritos. I think there was only one there, right off of South Street. And then it closed down, and then you had to leave California, and I think the closest Cracker Barrel was, I think, Kingman, Arizona. But now we have Cracker Barrel in California. Well, about a year ago, Cracker Barrel started cratering, if you will. There was cracks in the barrels. That's really good. But anyway, there were cracks in the barrel, and they were having some problem with just their menu. People were starting to complain about the food, and their stock started to pummel a bit. Then a white woman CEO, I had to say it like that because obviously that tends to be where most of the trouble starts. Jen, are you a white woman?
I believe so.
Yeah,
At last check, yes.
Yeah, that's where most of the trouble starts. But anyway,
Always.
so this white CEO with nice glasses on. Jen, you have glasses?
I do. I'm just not wearing them currently.
Okay. I didn't know if we could get the full package here. So she tried to rebrand the restaurant, did some internal stuff, kind of freshened it up a bit, took Uncle Herschel leaning against the barrel out of the main restaurant promo and just cleaned it up, kept the barrel look, but just put Cracker Barrel in there minus Uncle Herschel leaning on the barrel. Jen, of course, is back here as board op. Mike is out of town, I think, today, but Jen has not been with us for a long time. So I'm going to ask Jen, who is our token white CEO here at KHTS.
With glasses.
With glasses,
Yes.
who just is not wearing them at the moment.
No.
Have you and your family eaten at a Cracker Barrel?
We have.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are your thoughts of Cracker Barrel?
I think it's enjoyable. It's comfort food, if you will. It's simple enough. There's nothing too fancy about it. And when you're done with your meal, you can go off and shop. My daughter likes to buy silly trinkets that are in the front lobby area. And it's homey. You know, it's comfortable. It's nothing over the top. It's not fancy.
No. What's your favorite? I know they serve breakfast all day. That's their big deal. But as you said, Southern food, comfort food, if you will, fried chicken, fried catfish, that kind of stuff. They have fried okra as a side. I've never had it, but some people, die for it for some reason. And you can actually die from it if you keep having a lot of fried okra. But anyway, my thoughts are this. I love Cracker Barrel. Like I said, I prefer mom and pop type places, but when it comes to a chain, Cracker Barrel tends to be pretty consistent in my mind. I love their breakfast. I can have it any time during the day. In fact, I can have breakfast anytime during the day, frankly, anywhere, my own home or whether it's Cracker Barrel. But I'm going to just say the exact opposite of what I think everybody else is saying. I don't think that this CEO was intending to woke-atize Cracker Barrel.
No.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be political.
It doesn't have to.
I know that we're in the
exactly.
middle of a political show, but not everything has to be political.
Yeah, I just did not think when I first heard about it, my instinct was maybe she's just trying to freshen it up.
Yeah.
I mean, Denny's freshened up, if you remember. It used to kind of look 70s and 80-ish, and then all of a sudden they freshened up. If you'll notice, a lot of these fast food chains are freshening up right now. McDonald's has gone through a big makeover, Jack in the Box, Taco Bell, all these places don't look the way they used to. Right. Wendy's is going through a fresh up process. Chick-fil-A, you name it. And yet, there's no backlash against that.
Well, logos are going to and always have changed. It's interesting because I think it's one of those things where, as a society, we recognize whatever the logo is. Pick your favorite restaurant or soft drink or whatever. And once that logo changes, then all of a sudden you care. But prior to that, you subconsciously you didn't really think about it one way or the other.
For instance,
and so people are crying now because this is different. They don't like change.
When you think of Wendy's, what do you think of?
I think of the little redheaded with pigtails.
The girl that looks like Pippi Longstocking, right?
And was that his daughter, I believe?
Some
folklore says that was Dave's daughter, I think.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm ashamed that I don't know now because I feel like I'm inept. Thank you, white
You're
CEO
welcome.
woman, making me
That's
feel
why
inept.
I'm here.
But yeah, when we think of Wendy's, we think of that little iconic girl with the little freckles on her face and the pigtails. When we think of Taco Bell, years ago, Taco Bell had a whole new look, a whole different look than it has now. But all these places end up getting rebranded, and I don't think we have to go down the woke avenue. Now, do a lot of these white CEO women, and again, just throwing that out there, folks, do a lot of these white CEO women tend to do this? Well, obviously we know that the Bud Light thing completely bit them in the backside with the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing, and I believe that was a woman CEO, and Bud Light still hasn't recovered. It's been almost 2 years now. And there's been other rebranding attempts that have basically acquiesced to the culture and all that kind of stuff. But I do like the fact that this CEO, which is another reason why I don't think that she was intending this to be woke, she listened to the public pressure, which was a lot. She listened even to the presidential pressure. Donald Trump weighed in on the Cracker Barrel issue yesterday, because obviously there isn't any more pressing issues in the world.
No, that's heavy-hitting stuff
It's heavy-hitting stuff.
Donald.
That's right. I'm working out an agreement between, between Ukraine and Russia, and I'm dealing with the Cracker Barrel thing at the same time. But I do think that it's good, and I think it's honoring that she does acquiesce to the public and presidential pressure here, but mainly the public pressure, and says, listen, we're going to keep Uncle Herschel on the promotion, leaning on the barrel. And if you remember, there's an Uncle Herschel breakfast platter in the menu. Yeah, there's an Uncle Herschel breakfast. Now, I don't get that. I usually get the Country Boy sampler or something like that.
It's not enough for you, right?
Yeah, it's not enough, exactly. So, but anyway, that's the whole Cracker Barrel shenanigan. I'm glad that has been taken care of, and I thank God that the president weighed in on that. How many of you have heard here in California that there might be a two-state solution? Now, this is in reference to the whole redistricting shenanigans that are happening up in Sacramento with Governor Newsom putting this referendum up for a vote this November. In response to Democratic plans, this is from Town Hall, in response to Democratic plans to redraw congressional maps in California, the state's top Republican in the Assembly, James Gallagher, expected to propose a two-state solution during a Wednesday press conference, which of course is going to happen sometime during our show here. And he went on to say, quote, "The people of inland California have been overlooked for too long." Assemblymember James Gallagher said in a statement, "It's time for a two-state solution." Now, the proposed map would split California between the coastal elites, aka the Democrats, from Republican-leaning inland parts of the state. Gallagher's solution responds to Sacramento's attempt to permanently redraw California's congressional maps, an act he says would silence rural voices and rig the political system forever, the press release states. Now, I've got a map here in my hands. You don't see it, but everything from Northern California down to San Diego on the coastal side is all blue, and everything from about a quarter into the state all the way to the Nevada and Oregon border and Arizona borders are all red. So that is essentially what he's going to try to do. I don't think this is going to pass. A couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I had a lady from our church that came in named Diane Zimmerman, and she talks about something called the New California State. This might be an interesting an attempt for New California State to maybe talk to James Gallagher about this whole two-state solution, which in effect New California State, is attempting to do. The other thing that I find amazing is just how far in the toilet the popularity of the current Democratic Party is. Case in point, when Donald Trump wants to fight crime, the Democrats then say there is no crime. Now, if you remember during Joe Biden's administration, they kept denying inflation for months and then ultimately the whole first year after the pandemic. They kept denying that the grocery prices were going up. They kept denying that gas prices were going up. If you don't recall, folks, we were paying up to $7 a gallon in gas during the 2021-2022 cycle, and that was during all of that time when inflation and the eggs were going up and things of that nature, but they kept denying reality. So now Democrats, what are they doing? They're denying that there was ever crime in Washington, D.C. Now listen, for all my life, I have heard and I have read stories of how bad crime was in Washington, D.C. And so now President Trump has sent some troops into Washington, D.C. to help the law enforcement there to crack down on crime. Now, for those of you that are about to go nuts on this, Washington, D.C. is federal jurisdiction. It is the District of Columbia. So it is under federal jurisdiction. So the president has far more latitude in doing what he's doing there than maybe the next step, which is sending him over into Chicago, which is what he's attempting to do here, at least with his rhetoric. But obviously Washington, D.C., and the people in Washington, D.C. are the ones who would know if crime is going down. I want you to listen to this, just a 23-second clip here of a CNN reporter asking an average Washington, D.C. resident if she thinks that crime is going down. And here is what this woman said to this CNN reporter.
My first reaction was that this is a good thing. I think that the governor as well as the mayor should be on board with it just so we can get a bit more of security in Chicago the way that we need.
The crime has dropped since 2024. Do you feel like the city feels safer?
No, not at all. No, especially with the police being defunded.
I made a mistake there. That was actually in Chicago, which is the next clip here, which is Mayor Brandon Johnson, who is on Morning Joe. Not my favorite show. Obviously, Joe Scarborough is no friend to President Trump. But here's Joe Scarborough trying to get Mayor Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, to at least concede, do you need more cops on the beat?
Would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want, and I said those are good and important programs, but I'm asking also, would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs that a lot of cities are engaging in and having success with?
Well, look, here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know it's not policing alone, but I know it's not policing alone. You've told me everything else you want. I'm curious, and this does come down to an ideological difference between people. Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look,
okay,
I'm not saying that we don't.
That's not the question I asked. My question is, and I just need a yes or a no, do you believe the streets of Chicago would be safer if you got all of those other extraordinary programs put back into place, which do have a history of being successful, if that's complemented by having 5,000 more cops on the streets of Chicago?
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm agreeing with you that all of these other social programs are extraordinarily important. I just need a yes or a no, and then this will be the last time I ask. If you get all of those other social programs that 800 million that New York City does, Los Angeles, other people do with great success, would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported. I don't believe that just simply putting out an arbitrary number around police officers is the answer. What I'm saying is policing and affordable housing. It's policing and mental and behavioral health care services. It's policing and youth employment. It's a full package. Of course, we want to make sure that our police department is fully supported. That's why I've invested in our Detectives Bureau, because what we have seen in the city of Chicago when we solve crime, it acts and serves as a deterrent. It's policing and all of the other efforts that we're doing.
It's answers like that that'll continue to keep the Democratic numbers in the toilet. Folks, when we return, we're going to talk to David Hernandez, California GOP LA Regional Vice Chair and host of LA Hispanic Republican Club radio show on Salem Radio Network, when we return here on your hometown station. All right, we're back here on Politics in the Pulpit on your hometown station, KHTS AM 1220 and 98.1 FM. This is your holy host. I've got on the line with me right now David Hernandez. He is the California GOP LA Regional Vice Chair and the host of the LA Hispanic Republican Club radio show, heard every weekend on the Salem Radio Network. David, how are you doing today?
I am well. You know, it's a good life when you get to have fun and do good.
Absolutely. Well, I think our listeners would like to know, first of all, David, you are seeking re-election as LA Regional Vice Chair. I think it would be incumbent upon us to let our listeners know, what does an LA Regional Vice Chair do?
Well, according to the bylaws of the California Republican Party, it is to strengthen the Republican Party base in the region, and our region is Los Angeles, because with 88 cities and such a large area, we are our own region. There are other parts of the state where you have different counties make up, multiple counties making up a particular region, but we're a standalone county. So the outline of the bylaws, it's pretty vague. It's strengthen the Republican Party base and also strengthen the Republican Party within Los Angeles County, in my case. And that's about it. So you get to deal with over 1 million Republicans. The LA County Central Committee, of which I'm not a part of, but it's my responsibility to help support them, all without a budget, but with a great imagination and the ability to develop relationships over the years. We've been pretty successful in doing exactly that.
And as LA Regional Vice Chair, I think I saw this on Facebook today or yesterday, David, you had mentioned that you were able to put some things together in Whittier and some other places where you hosted events with virtually, if not any, budget at all, as you mentioned.
Well, and, there are so many good individuals that are involved in politics. They want to do something. They want to volunteer. All they want to know is, what can they do? Where can they get the tools to do it? And so what I did, and the first thing I did once I was elected is my opponent was the former chair of the LA County Republican Party. So the first thing I did upon my election was to invite him and the party treasurer for lunch. And as we sat down, I said, look, the election's over. Now it's time for us to work together and be supportive of each other and do what we can to fulfill our responsibilities to not only the members of the Central Committee, but...
Oh, I think we just lost David Hernandez. Well, hopefully David will call back up, because we'd love to hear some more about what he has to say about the party, because there's no doubt in my mind that we need David Hernandez to call back. And also we need him as the LA Regional Vice Chair. I think it's important to have strong leadership in that particular part of the party, because here in Los Angeles County, we just don't have good representation within the California GOP. And I believe that David Hernandez would be that individual. Now, what I find interesting is I don't think that David Hernandez is getting the kind of support that he needs in his reelection bid that I believe that David should receive from the party. Now, some people would say, well, the party can't really get in on these types of fights. Well, I think they can, and I think they should, because obviously we need somebody like David, who, by the way, is a person of conviction and faith. I think that's important. I was about to ask him that question before the call dropped out, but he's a person of faith, and a lot of the people that he has around him happen to be people of evangelical faith. And I wanted to ask David, does the California GOP have a problem with people of faith? In fact, I think David's calling in right now. David, is that you?
That is me.
All right.
That is I.
I think the GOP was tapping your phone.
Nah, come on. It's just with all this wonderful technology that we have at our disposal. Life is in session.
Well,
so
one of the things I wanted to say, David, is I was saying right before as your phone dropped. Does the California GOP have a problem with people of faith?
Actually, when you look at first of all, who is the California GOP? There are, you have your chair, your vice chair, treasurer, recording secretary, and then you have 8 regional chairs, such as myself. That is comprised of individuals of various denominations. But when you look at the 1,500 or so delegates that make up the California Republican Party, you have some of the most dedicated, obedient, faithful individuals that I believe in the country as part of those 1,500 delegates. You have many members of the, whether they're the Tea Party, the California Republican Assembly. So I would say no, that the body of the CAGOP is very strong in faith, and we saw that 2 years ago at the convention in Anaheim, where a handful of individuals attempted to change the platform of the California Republican Party to delete the part of the platform that stood for traditional marriage, marriage between a man and a woman. And when we had the vote on that on Sunday, that was overwhelmingly defeated. So the traditional marriage remains in the platform of the California Republican Party, and that was only accomplished with such a large number of faith-based delegates who are part of the body of the party. I would say that, if anything, that the California Republican Party has a challenge because over 50% of Christians in California aren't registered to vote. And of the 50% that are, just a little bit more than 40% actually go to the polls and vote. And so I think we are in an incredible position right now for the faith-based community to not only step forward and protect the platform as it is, as a platform of life and as a traditional marriage, but also to attain additional positions of leadership within the party.
Yeah, and I believe that a lot of what you said is absolutely accurate, David, because I am friends with, and I'm sure you are too, with Dran Reese and Salt and Light Council.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'll be speaking. I'll be one of the pastors speaking in a couple weeks at their roundtable, along with several other. Yeah, and so and Mike Morrell, one of my friends, one of your friends, I'm assuming, and some other great people. And so we're going to be addressing various parts of the platform for the Republican Party. And so I'm looking forward to the subject that Dran had given me. And so I'll be looking forward to seeing you then, David. But a week ago, I was up in Sacramento joining over 5,000 individuals, mainly from Calvary Chapel, Chino Valley, with Pastor Jack Hibbs, standing in opposition to AB 495, which, by the way, in case our listeners want to know, that bill was put in suspension file, and it's going to be brought back up here very, very soon. So keep calling.
It is actually back. They're going to be voting for it on Friday.
Oh, this Friday.
August 29th.
Got it.
Yep.
So people got to call.
I just got an email.
Yeah, people got to call their representatives and make sure that they vote this thing down. But there were over 5,000 people there, David, and I was under the impression that one of our candidates for Republican governor was supposed to be there, but unfortunately, none of our candidates were there. I don't know if you heard that, but I think what a huge loss for them to have been able to talk to such a large crowd, and whether they were in opposition or not to AB 495, at least they could have been there to at least stand with the people. Do you think that was a missed opportunity for some of our governors?
Oh, absolutely. Anyone that is not opposed to AB 495 belongs in the Democrat Party, not in the Republican Party. And they sure as heck shouldn't be running for governor as a Republican, because the danger that this legislation presents to not only to the hundreds of thousands of children, unaccompanied minors that came across the border, where it is going to give legitimacy to human traffickers who show up at a school filling out an affidavit that said they are the legal guardian, and there's absolutely no research or verification of that status. Let's put those individuals off to one side. But with the other legislation that has come out of Sacramento with regards to the promotion of transgenderism, the bills that have come out that have taken away basically parental rights if a child speaks to a counselor or a teacher and says they do not feel affirmed at home, that child can now be taken out of that household and sent to a center where they will be affirmed, and the parents have absolutely no ability to determine where that child is or get that child back. Now, so if someone takes one of those children and presents them to a school as their, quote, legal guardian, all of a sudden there's documentation there as well. So in so many areas, this is not just bad legislation. It is downright evil legislation. And you're right. So that was an opportunity missed. But like so many other challenges that we have here in California, it is the grassroots, it's the mothers, the fathers, the uncles, it is the pastors that are stepping up and going there. We had a number of our Los Angeles Hispanic Republican Club board members there in attendance, and they were willing to drive up, the 5 or 6 hours up there to be there for the day. So you're right. That was a missed opportunity. And like so many others, the candidates and their staff may be looking back, well, maybe we should have, but, what are they going to do going forward?
Well, I'm supposed to be interviewing Steve Hilton here in the next few weeks, so I'll definitely ask him that question when I get that opportunity. Let me also bring this up. Obviously, the redistricting plan by Gavin Newsom is going to go forward and is going to be on the ballot this November. I just want to ask you, David, if this gets passed, even though I still believe that there is a chance it may not, but if this were to pass, would that not, in one sense, basically just silence the Republican Party even more than we are currently?
Well, being a member of the executive committee of the state party, I've attended several of the emergency meetings with the various law firms, with the senators, congresspeople, and assembly members. This is going to be on the ballot. They're having a lot of different legal challenges at different levels, whether it's the state or the federal. You also have different groups that have formed in order to try and keep it off the ballot, but it will be on the ballot. But, Pastor, this is the position that I think I'm coming from. this is a blessing in disguise for Republicans and conservatives. And then in conservatives, I also mean Democrats and independents, because what is going to happen is you are going to see, and what is already happening, especially within the party, individuals and organizations that absolutely have refused to work with each other in the past have come together. We have some of the players from the past political era. You have Arnold Schwarzenegger coming forward. You have Charles Munger coming forward. You have so many different individuals that are basically, some are very progressive, others are very conservative, and everything in between. So all of the Republican organizations are coming together to fight this, and not just in the courtroom, but at the ballot box. And so we know that Charles Munger has already put in about $10 million and is committed, I think, to about $100 million. You have so many different individuals. And when this is explained to people that says, look, California right now is a single-party rule state with the supermajority in the Assembly and the Senate, and every statewide office being held by Democrats. All of the challenges that we have, that everyone, regardless of their political affiliation when it comes to crime, education, failed infrastructure, the cost of living, housing, fuel, as bad as California is, do you want these people to determine who your congressional representative is going to be?
David Hernandez, can I get you to hold on just for 1 minute? We have a hard break. Can I get you on for the next minute?
Yeah.
Okay, great. When we come back here, we'll continue our conversation with David Hernandez, who's the California GOP LA Regional Vice Chair, when we come back here on your hometown station. All right, we're back here for our final segment of Politics in the Pulpit here on your hometown station. We've been talking to David Hernandez, who is the LA Regional Vice Chair for the California GOP here in Los Angeles. And we were talking about the redistricting ploy that Gavin Newsom and the Democrats are forcing on the state of California in November. David, you were just on a roll there, and unfortunately we were going to a hard break. But you were saying there's a silver lining here in this whole situation. So continue, if you will, with that Hernandez rant.
Well, here's the reality: is that individuals within the Republican Party who usually don't get along because they're single issue individuals or they have different agendas, they are coming together quicker than the Red Sea closed up on the Egyptians trying to chase down the Israelites. And what is going to happen, because we're talking about the reality is California has 52 congressional districts. Right now, with the so-called Independent Redistricting Commission, the Democrats have 43 of the 52, and Republicans have 9. The new map that has been drawn, and as the information as to who drew the map is coming out, we are going to be facing a state with 49 Democrat congressional districts and 3 Republican districts. And so when I talk to people, regardless of party, I ask them, how has that single-party rule worked out for you so far? If there's no one to stand up and ask about the unintended consequences, we end up with a failed state like we have here in California. And what I also ask people, I said, look, okay, so California has 40 million people. We have a lot of needs, and we have a lot of federal funding that comes into California. Do you really think a Republican congressman from Oklahoma or Florida or Arkansas is really going to care about allocating federal funding for resources in California? Having only 3 congressional representatives at a time when the Republican Party is in control of the House and the Senate, you are really placing California further in jeopardy by not having some Republican registration at a time when the Republicans are in power. And anyone with common sense, no matter how much they hate President Trump, they have to agree that it is better to have more individuals fighting for resources coming to California for whether it's infrastructure, education, crime, whatever it is. It's better to have more than less, especially since Republicans are going to be in office for a while. And so the silver lining, I think, for us is going to be that when this is defeated on November 4th, that even though you're going to have a large percentage of Democrats and independents voting against it, this is going to be seen as a Republican victory against the unions, against the special interests, against Churla, the organization that drew the maps, is what we're hearing now. Remember, Churla is the organization that was using U.S. aid money to fund the riots and demonstrations here in Los Angeles during the ICE raids. And so on so many different levels, this is going to be an awakening. We have, we talked about the Christians that aren't registered and the ones that aren't voting. I think this is going to be a catalyst to get more of them registered and voting, but also the 40% of Republicans that have basically given up and have stopped voting. That is where, as our organization, the California Hispanic Republican Club, that's where our focus is going to be. This is going to be on the 40% of Republicans that have given up. That if we're going to contact them, if we can get at least 20% of them to vote on November 4th, I mean, it's going to be a mail-in ballot. And so we can get 20% of them to vote. Then come the June election, that means our candidates running for LA City Council here in Los Angeles, the ones running for supervisor, for assembly, for Senate, and Congress are really going to get a boost in their chances of winning their elections because the Democrats in their redistricting scheme has given us the tools to wake up the sleeping giant Democrats that have basically, rather Republicans that have given up.
Well, from your mouth to God's lips, David, I'm praying that is in fact the case, and I'm going to just go ahead and rely on your enthusiasm on that. So I want to ask you one last question before I let you go. Since the last time we spoke, former Sheriff Alex Villanueva has thrown in his hat for sheriff's race. I have, of course, had Oscar Martinez on my show at least 3 times. Have met he and his family. They've attended church services at our place at least once, and I've been recommending him to a lot of groups. And I know that you've promoted him and has spoken at a lot of your events as well. Your thoughts on the sheriff's race here in Los Angeles County?
Well, I would like to see a runoff between Oscar and between Alex. I'd like to see not Villanueva, but Luna eliminated in the primary. That, to me, that would be the greatest because both Alex has all of his pluses. I've known Alex for a long time, had him on the show a lot. And Oscar, a new friend, but, a dedicated friend. He's a member of our club. I've had him on the radio a number of times. He is now a delegate to the State Republican Party, and he is a lifelong Republican, a Marine. And, so we have some very, very good choices. This last Saturday, I had the opportunity to meet a retired Sheriff's Captain, Mike Borman. Mike came recommended by a good friend who had served on the Sheriff's Department. So as a representative and a talk show host, I invited Mike to come on the show. And, very distinguished history. He actually grew up here in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. We call it in the projects over there off of Norris and Van Nuys Boulevard. So he is a homegrown local success story. So we have so many good options. And so what I'm looking at is a runoff between our friend Oscar and our friend Alex and Luna going back to work. Maybe working Men's Central Jail.
Well, I think that is actually a great outcome. So, David Hernandez, running again for California GOP LA Regional Vice Chair, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Looking forward to seeing you on September 6th, just a little over a week away. And so thank you so much, and good luck as you run for re-election.
All right. Thank you, Pastor.
All right. When we in a couple weeks here, we're going to have Leo Zaki, who is going to be in studio with us. He, of course, is a gubernatorial campaign running as a Republican. He is part of the Zaki Farms regime, if you will, if you like that type of chicken. Anyway, Leo will be joining us in studio in a couple weeks. That's September 10th. Looking forward to highlighting, if you will, some of these second and third tiered candidates that really don't get much press out there, so it'd be great to be able to highlight that. Thanks for tuning in today to Politics and the Pulpit. We will catch you here, same bat time, same bat channel. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time.